Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because every time you do, somewhere in the galaxy, an alien realizes they've underestimated humanity. Let's dive in. Smoke choked the air like a dying beast's final breath. The earth trembled with every explosion. Skies tore open in bursts of fire and metal. The war between the United Earth Coalition and the Vorak Dominion had reached its ugliest hour. Soldiers darted through the inferno, yelling commands, dodging plasma blasts, stepping over corpses without time to look back. In the middle of this apocalyptic storm, she lay broken General Kalira of the Vorak Vanguard. Once a name that instilled terror across 5 systems, now a shattered shell in the dirt. Her mechanical legs had been torn from her body by an artillery strike. Her blood, thick and dark purple, soaked the ash-stained soil. Kalira blinked against the blinding light of a burning mech nearby. Her vision blurred. She tried to drag herself forward, but pain bolted through her spine. Around her, Vorak troops retreated, firing wildly. Some glanced in her direction. None stopped. Not one. Help! She rasped, her voice a weak ghost. Help me! But in the language of war, mercy was obsolete. The wind cut across her face. Her helmet was gone. Her breathing slowed as the agony in her abdomen deepened. The tremors of distant detonations rolled beneath her. A shadow passed. This is it, she thought. This is the end. Alone. Then, footsteps different from the thunderous gait of Vorak boots. Lighter, measured, human. Kalira forced her eyes open. A man stood above her, silhouetted by firelight. His armor was black and scorched, helmet cracked down one side. A bandage wrapped around his bleeding arm, rifle slung over his back. His eyes met hers, and Kalira froze. He's going to shoot me, but he didn't. Instead, he knelt beside her. You're still breathing, he said, voice calm like a cold stream. Kalira stared, too stunned to speak. A human. Speaking, not killing. Why? She whispered. Why are you here? The man looked around. The battlefront had quieted, only distant skirmishes and the howl of broken machines remained. You're injured, he said. She chuckled bitterly, coughing on her own blood. No legs, that's beyond injured. He didn't flinch. He just nodded, eyes scanning her wounds. Then, slowly, he opened a small metal case on his belt-filled medical kit. She blinked. You're helping me? She asked, disbelief clouding her voice. Seems that way, he said simply. But I'm Vorak. Doesn't matter. He worked quickly, wrapping a sealant bandage around the mangled stumps of her legs, placing a glowing patch over one wound. The pain dulled slightly, like it had taken a step back. I'm Dallin, he said. Sergeant Dallin Rook, Earth Defense. Kalira clenched her jaw. Kalira, General of Vorak Vanguard. Quite the pair, huh? You'll die carrying me, she warned. We're deep in Vorak territory. Then we die together. Why? Her mind screamed. Why is he doing this? He slipped her arm over his shoulder and pulled her up. She was dead weight. His knees faltered, but he didn't. Let go. She bit her lip to muffle a scream as her nerves lit up in agony. They started moving, weaving through fire, rubble, and shattered war machines. You humans are strange, she muttered. You're heavier than I thought, he replied. A faint grin tugged at her lips, despite everything. Then metal footsteps. Behind them, fast, sharp, a scout drone. Dallin ducked behind a cracked bunker wall, his body shielding hers. The drone whirred past, scanning the field. Kalira could feel his chest rising and falling against her shoulder. So close, so human. You don't even care who I am, do you? She asked. I care that you're alive. No one had ever said that to her before. The drone moved on. Dallin stood again. Her eyelids drooped. She was fading, but not from blood loss. It was something else. A flicker of warmth, alien and unwelcome, kindled inside her. He carried her alone, Step by step, through the battlefield. The sun had begun to dip behind the jagged ridgelines of the blasted valley, casting a burnt orange glow across the ruins. Dallin's steps grew slower as he carried Kalira through the scorched terrain. She was limp in his arms, head resting against his shoulder, her breath shallow. Her purple blood had stopped flowing freely, but her skin had turned a sickly gray. His own legs trembled. His armor pressed heavily against cracked ribs. But still, he didn't stop. She was the enemy. Her forces had annihilated his comrades. Bombarded colonies, torn through Earth's outer systems. He should have walked away. But something deeper than reason had rooted him in place when he saw her broken and begging for mercy. Ahead, the twisted remains of a Vorak scout outpost jutted from the rubble. Half the roof was missing. One wall had collapsed entirely, but it was shelter. He stepped inside, scanning the interior, a control panel sparking feebly, overturned crates, and Vorak crates stacked in the corner. Dust clung to every surface. He gently laid Kalira down against the far wall. Her body twitched slightly as he shifted her. Dallin exhaled, finally resting against the wall beside her. His cum crackled. Unit Lambda 7, report status. He pressed the mic on his collar. This is Sergeant Rook, wounded behind enemy lines. Copy. Can you reach extraction point? He looked down at Kalira. Her breath rattled in her chest. Negative, he replied. I'm carrying someone. Pause. Is it a civilian? No. Vorak soldier. Female. Critically injured. More silence. Then nothing. He dropped the radio. He already knew what they'd think. You're insane, they'd say, helping a Vorak. Madness. But he didn't care. He pulled the last half bottle of water from his pouch and held it to her lips. Kalira stirred, her cracked lips parting. She drank weakly. You're still here? She whispered. Told you, I don't leave people behind. She blinked at him. Strange for a human. Thanks, I think. She looked around the shelter with dull eyes. Why? She asked softly. Dallin didn't speak for a moment. Then he turned to the wall, eyes tracing the horizon through a crack in the metal plating. I had a squad mate, he said finally. Juno. Hit in the strike. Begged me not to leave him. I tried. Carried him through a storm of fire. A blast knocked us both out. When I came to, he was already cold. He swallowed hard. I swore after that no one gets left again. Kalira stared at him. I'm not your friend. No, he said. But you're still someone. Her expression shifted. Something unreadable flickered across her eyes. Before she could respond, a mechanical hum echoed from outside. Dallin stiffened. A Vorak aerial scout drone hovered just outside the entrance, red sensor flashing. Kalira's body tensed. That's a sweeper, she whispered. If it finds you, it will call in a squad. Then I should run, he said. She turned to him. Yes, leave me. Save yourself. Dallin's face hardened. No, you're a fool, she hissed. I'm not worth your life. You don't get to decide that. He reached for his rifle. Wait, Kalira said. Her fingers fumbled beneath the tattered thermal wrap. She pulled out a small silver disc Vorak tech. A signal jammer. Use this, she said, sliding it across the floor. Dallin picked it up, turning it in his hand. How? Center button. Now, the drone buzzed louder. Approaching the shelter's entrance, he pressed the button. A high-pitched frequency shrieked briefly. The drone wavered in the air, blinked red twice. Then dropped, silent and dead, into the dirt. He exhaled slowly. You saved me, he said. I owed you. Kalira murmured before slipping unconscious again. Dallin dragged the drone inside and buried it beneath broken panels and debris. No signal, no trace. Night fell hard. Cold winds slithered through the gaps in the walls. Dallin built a small fire using broken Vorak crates. He sat close to her, checking her pulse every few minutes, still there, but faint, He was exhausted. He leaned back, head resting against a burnt-out console. His eyes closed for just a second. A gasp snapped them open. Kalira stirred. Her hand twitched. She opened her eyes. "You're okay," he said gently. "Safe for now." She winced as she tried to sit up, then stilled. "I can't feel my legs." "I know," he said. "They're gone." She stared at the ceiling. "For a moment, you didn't leave." "No. Why?" "I told you already." Silence stretched. The fire crackled between them. "You humans are strange," she said again. "You've said that twice now." Her lips curved slightly. Then her tone turned serious. "Will they come for you?" "Maybe," he replied. "I've got a beacon. But it only activates outside the jamming zone. We're still too deep in Vorak territory, so we're trapped. Not forever. I'll carry you again when the time's right." Kalira turned her head slowly. "I am not a burden." "You're not," Dallin said. "You're a survivor." She flinched slightly at the word. On Vorak, survival was power brutal, selfish. Cold. This was something else. "Get some rest," he said softly. "We'll move at dawn." Later that night, Dallin crept quietly through the rest of the ruined scout post. His boots barely made a sound against the cold metal floor. He kept his rifle in one hand, ready for anything. In a dark recess behind a collapsed support beam, he found a Vorak supply crate. Its markings were faded and scorched, but it was sealed. He pried it open with the edge of his knife. Dust clouded the air. Inside strange medical tubes glowing faint blue. Dallin carried them back to Kalira, who lay quietly beneath the thermal wrap. "Found something," he said softly. "Can you use any of it?" She stirred, her fingers fumbling weakly toward one of the tubes. She examined it. "This slows bleeding," she whispered. "We use it for triage before limb regrowth procedures." Dallin helped her apply it. As the liquid touched her wounds, it hissed violently. She clenched her jaw but didn't scream. "You're tougher than most humans I know," he muttered. "I was trained not to feel," she said, voice rough. "But now I feel too much." He didn't ask what she meant. He just stayed beside her, watching the firelight flicker across her bruised face. "If your people find us," she said suddenly, "they'll kill me." "I won't let them." "You'd fight your own?" "I'd speak for you," he said. "If they listen. And if they don't?" He didn't answer. Then outside, something clicked, a faint mechanical sound. Another, then silence. Dallin jumped up, motioning for quiet. He crouched low by the crack in the wall. Shadows shifted beyond the shelter. 2, no, 3 figures moved between the rubble. Vorak armor. "Elite scouts. They're here for me," Kalira whispered, her voice tight. "Not to rescue." 2. Erase. They kill their own? Weakness is betrayal under Vorak law. Dallin clenched his jaw. "Then we hide." He blocked the crack in the wall with a metal slab. Darkness swallowed the shelter's interior. Outside, footsteps stopped. A mechanical voice rang out in sharp Vorak dialect. "General Kalira, if you live, respond." Kalira looked at Dallin. He shook his head slowly. She stayed silent. The voice repeated, "Vorak doctrine does not permit capture. Surrender your life with honor." She closed her eyes, shame rippling across her face. "They'll sweep the structure." "Hide here," Dallin said, pulling a bent metal sheet off the floor. He laid it over her. "Don't move." "And you?" she asked. "I'll distract them. That's suicide. They'll think I'm alone." She gripped his wrist. "Don't." He looked her dead in the eyes. "Trust me." Her fingers slowly let go. The shelter door creaked open with a drawn-out screech. 3 tall Vorak scouts stepped through. Their green glowing armor cast eerie shadows on the walls. Their weapons were raised. "Human," one snarled. Dallin raised his hands. "Don't shoot. What are you doing in Vorak space?" "Got separated. Wounded after the last strike." Where is General Kalira? Who? Dallin feigned. Confusion. The nearest scout stepped closer, aiming square at his chest. Do not lie. We detected movement. Maybe a rat, Dallin shrugged. You've got rats, right? The second scout activated a blue scanning beam. It swept across the room, heading toward the corner where Kalira was hidden. Dallin stepped directly in front of it. I don't know who you're looking for, but I'm not your enemy right now. You've got your war. I've got mine. The third scout moved swiftly. He grabbed Dallin by the neck and slammed him against the wall. Kalira heard it. Her chest clenched. She couldn't let him die for her. She shoved the metal panel off her and dragged herself forward with raw arms, her body trembling. Stop! She shouted weakly. The scouts turned. I'm here, she said, dragging herself fully into view. I live. The lead scout lowered his weapon. You are unfit to lead. I don't need your judgment, she growled. You must be cleansed. Dallin broke free of the scout's grip, raised his rifle. Touch her and I'll end you. You threaten a Vorak elite? The scout sneered. She's worth 10 of you. Dallin snapped. Tense silence filled the air. The lead scout finally raised a clawed hand. She is no longer our mission. Leave her. Without another word, the three turned and exited into the night. Kalira collapsed onto the ground. Her arms gave out. Her chest heaved. Dallin rushed to her side. Why did you do that? You saved me first, she whispered. And then, for the first time, she smiled. Real, gentle, grateful. They sat there in silence, surrounded by broken machines, with the war just outside the walls. But something inside them had shifted. Hours passed. Reinforcements never came. Kalira was barely conscious. Dallin held her hand, watching the horizon. Smoke still hung in the sky, but there was no fire close. At dawn, he made a decision. He set her down gently, grabbed his rifle, and walked out of the shelter into the dead, cold ruins. He needed water, food, anything to buy more time. The air outside bit at his lungs. Chemical residue from prior strikes drifted like fog. He found wreckage from an old Vorak dropship. Near its belly, beneath loose debris, something glowed faintly. A Vorak survival pack. He tore it open. Inside, nutrient, paste and a sealed water capsule. He sprinted back to the shelter, but the door was open. His heart dropped. Kalira. No answer. He burst inside, rifle drawn. The bedding was torn. Drag marks trailed behind the shelter. His eyes followed them into the dark ruins. Footsteps echoed faintly, and then voices. Guttural, laughing. Dallin crept forward, slipping between broken structures. He saw them. Not Vorak soldiers. Raiders, scavenger class. Their armor was rusted, cobbled together from scrap. One of them slapped Kalira's face gently. She breathes, the alien growled. Still warm. We'll trade her. Vorak command pays well for deserters. Dallin's hands shook. Rage flooded his body. He raised his rifle. Took aim, one breath, then he fired. The raider's throat exploded in a cloud of black mist. His body crumpled backward, the laughter replaced with shouts of alarm. Human! One barked. The remaining scavengers turned, firing erratically toward the ruins. Dallin dropped into cover, rolled, and fired again. A second raider took a blast to the leg, screamed, and fell. The third dashed toward Kalira, dragging her upright by the collar. Come closer, the alien hissed. And she dies. Dallin didn't flinch. He stepped forward deliberately, eyes locked. Last chance. The raider growled. Bang. The third raider dropped instantly. A clean shot through the eye plate. Dallin lowered his rifle, smoke trailing from the barrel. He sprinted to Kalira, slicing the crude bindings around her arms and chest. I'm here, he said breathlessly. You're safe. Her eyes fluttered. You came back? I never left. He scooped her up, cradling her as he pressed the water capsule to her lips. She drank slowly. He fed her nutrient paste with careful fingers. A hint of color returned to her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "For being your enemy. You're not anymore." As the green clouds above shifted, they moved together toward the western canyon. It was Dallin's last gamble. The old map showed a signal plateau on the other side. If they reached it, the beacon might break through the jamming field. Hours passed. Dallin walked without rest, his arms locked around her, his boots scraping across cracked stone and ash. Kalira rested against him, barely conscious. Then faint in the distance, a flare, red, pulsing, a signal. Dallin's heart surged. It could be a human rescue team. It could be Vorak. It could be worse. But it was something. They entered a narrow gorge, the canyon walls rising like broken fangs on either side. Echoes of each footstep returned louder than the last. The air was sharp and cold. Kalira stirred in his arms. "Where are we?" "Near the signal." She lifted her head slightly. "I feel different." "How?" "I don't feel like a soldier anymore." Dallin glanced down. "That's not a bad thing." She looked away. "On Vorak, we're taught not to feel. No love, no grief, no mercy. But you felt mercy. That's why you're alive." She closed her eyes and murmured, "Because you did first." They reached the end of the gorge, a small crater. Inside, a metal pod still smoldering sat half buried in dirt. A red beacon blinked on its side. Dallin laid Kalira behind a jagged rock and approached the pod cautiously. Rifle raised dot, then dash voices dot double quotes drop your weapon, came a shout from the ridge. He froze. 3 human soldiers in advanced armor stood. Above, rifles trained on him. Dallin raised his hands. "I'm Sergeant Rook, Earth Defense. ID 524 row." One soldier stepped forward, a woman. Her armor gleamed with a commander's insignia. She scanned his ID badge with a wrist device. "You're marked Mia." "Yeah," Dallin said. "I was behind the lines. Are you alone?" He hesitated. "No." The rifles raised again. "She's with me," he said. "A Vorak, injured, not hostile." The commander's jaw tightened. "You're carrying an enemy." "I'm saving her life. That's treason." He stepped forward. "You weren't there. Her own people left her to die." I wouldn't leave her." Silence. Then, "Bring her out." He returned to Kalira. Her eyes were open. She had heard everything. "They won't trust you," he murmured. "I trust you," she whispered. He helped her up. She leaned against him, unable to walk. Together, they stepped into the open. The soldiers flinched at the sight of her blue skin, silver-streaked hair, battle-scarred armor. "Hands up," the commander ordered. Dallin held her carefully as Kalira raised her arms with what little strength she had. "She's wounded," he said. "And she saved me. She's Vorak. She warned me about drones. She gave me tech to jam them. She fought off raiders while I bled. She risked her life to save mine." The soldiers didn't lower their weapons. "I won't let you harm her," Dallin said. Then Kalira spoke. "I know what I am to you," she said, voice trembling. "An enemy, a monster." She turned to Dallin. But he saw something else. "He gave me life when I had none." She faced the soldiers again. "I won't fight. I won't run. But if you must punish someone, punish me. Don't call him a traitor. He's more human than most of your army." The canyon went silent. Even the wind paused. The commander slowly lowered her rifle. "Command will want to hear this." She turned to the others. "Bring a stretcher and notify HQ." Kalira was lifted into the pod with caution, surrounded by watchful eyes. She gripped Dallin's hand tightly the entire time. "You changed me," she whispered. He squeezed her fingers. "You changed me too." As the pod lifted off, they watched the battlefield fade below, where war still raged. But hope had started to bloom. The pod landed at Outpost Cinder 8. A cold metal fortress etched into the side of a crater. Inside, Kalira was met with stares, some of suspicion, some of contempt. Medics scanned her like a specimen. One hissed, "Why is she alive?" "She surrendered," Dallin said. "She's still Vorak. She's also a person," he snapped. Kalira stayed quiet. She knew she was on human ground, where her kind weren't given the benefit of doubt. She didn't expect mercy. Only one human had ever offered it. Inside the medbay, a human doctor examined her, shaking her head. "This isn't protocol," the doctor muttered. "She's dying. She needs surgery. She's an enemy soldier. She's more than that." After a moment, the doctor nodded. "Fine, but understand this will cost you." Kalira was sedated and prepped. Dallin waited outside, pacing the corridor for over 2 hours. When the doctor finally returned, she said, "She live." He closed his eyes, breathing relief. "But come with me," she added. She led him to a dark chamber. A screen played. His voice, his defiance, Kalira's plea, her words about mercy. The full truth. Behind him, a voice spoke. "She's lucky you were the one who found her." Dallin turned. It was Commander Vale, the outpost's overseer. "She survived." "But what?" "Comey's next is out of your hands," Vale said. "You can't punish her. She's not a threat anymore. She was, and our leaders. Don't forget Isley." Dallin clenched his fists. "If you harm her—" Vale raised a hand. "Easy, soldier. I saw the footage. I saw her eyes. Maybe you're right. Maybe this. War is changing more than front lines." 3 days later, Kalira woke. White walls, clean sheets, machines humming. And Dallin, asleep in a chair beside her bed. "You're still here," she whispered. His eyes snapped open. "You're awake. I thought they'd take me. They tried. I stopped them." She studied his face. "Why?" He leaned closer. "Because you're proof that even in war, we can choose something else." Her voice cracked. "What if? They don't let me stay. I'll fight for you. You'd go against your own kind. I already did." Just then, alarms echoed through the base. Red lights flashed. "Stay here," Dallin said, grabbing his rifle and running out. Gunfire. Explosions. Another Vorak raid, one that had bypassed Earth sensors. A warrior in dark armor stormed the medbay. His eyes locked onto Kalira. "General Kalira," he said. "You lie beside the enemy. They saved me. You shame us." He raised his weapon. Bang. Dallin's shot slammed into the soldier's back. "Are you okay?" he asked, stepping over the corpse. She nodded, breath shaky. "You saved me again." Always. More gunfire echoed, more death awaited. But they stood together, side by side. Not enemies. Not monsters. Survivors. And maybe something more.